I'm a big fan of horror movies. I know with my accent it sounds like I'm saying horror movies, but I'm saying scary, spooky, scary movies that'll have you wet in your undies while you watch them and sounding like SpongeBob when he sees the hash-slinging slasher. And recently, a new movie came out called The Boogeyman. It's based on Stephen King's short story of the same name, and immediately, just from the name itself, and I watched a couple trailers and whatnot, I thought the movie was gonna suck. I thought it was gonna be poo-poo ass. Much like every other recent horror movie in my brain, none of them have been good. And as someone who enjoys the genre, it seems like good scary movies are a dime a dozen these days. But I do also like watching bad ones. But only the ones that are so bad that they're just fun to laugh at. And this one, The Boogeyman, was not that. It was just a 1 star out of 5 and a pain to set through. I actually started doing, other things and just basically had it on as background noise about halfway through the movie. But let's just go ahead and hop into it and talk about it a bit. And I immediately knew this movie was going to be tragic from the opening scene, from the first second that the movie started, because it starts off with this baby that's in its crib. It's crying. Spoiler alert, there are going to be some spoilers if you want to watch this yourself, by the way. But the baby's crying, as babies do. They like to be annoying little shits. So it's crying in the middle of the night. The parents aren't checking on it because terrible parents. We'll find that out later that yes, they were terrible parents. But it's throwing a temper tantrum, throwing a hissy fit, and there's this ominous feeling surrounding it because it's dark. It's hinting very heavily that there's a monster watching the baby, and then turns out there is a monster, the Boogeyman, who was in the closet, and it comes out of the closet, going towards the baby, and then kills it. But while it comes out of the closet and is like coming towards the baby, it's going, "I'm your daddy, I'm your daddy, I'm your daddy," which kind of makes it seem like it's Michael Jackson coming out to take this kid to Neverland. It's just so creepy, and not in like a scary creepy way, in like a pedophile creepy way. Why did the Boogeyman have to say, "I'm your daddy," while it's going up to kill this kid?
It's just me. It's your daddy. It's me.
Why not just come out of the closet and kill the kid? Because to my knowledge, I don't think the monster spoke, the Boogeyman spoke very much, if any more lines the rest of the movie. Just in the opening scene where it said, "I'm your daddy." That's one of its very few lines in the whole movie, is telling a toddler, "I'm your daddy," in a very weird voice. And if that right there isn't enough to make you just turn the movie off and stop watching it, if I watched this thing in the theaters, I would be very close to getting up and walking out. And I've never walked out on any movie in my entire life, just because it's just so boring. It's not even that it just genuinely sucks. Like, the movie's well shot, the acting, there's nothing really bad in those departments. It's just the idea is so played out, so ran through. It's so boring. Like, the premise of the movie is there's this monster and there's this family. Where have we heard that before? Oh, I don't know, maybe every other fucking horror movie in existence. Dear Jesus. They say don't reinvent the wheel. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But this wheel is split in half. Please make a new wheel. Do something different. The only recent horror movies that I've enjoyed have been like Hereditary and Midsommar. Those ones are actually good movies because they do something different. They take something that works, that being like cults and sort of monsters, and then put their own little creative twist, creative spin on it. This movie, there's none of that. It's just they rely on jump scares. And any movie that relies heavily on jump scares as their form of fright, I have no respect for. I immediately lose respect for anyone who worked on this movie and just the movie itself. Because sure, jump scares are going to make you jump. They're going to make you go, whoo, doggy, whoo, that was spooky, hot dog. But that's it. Immediately after that, you're like, oh, that was just a cheap scare because the rest of this movie is not scary at all. And then most of the jump scares, you can feel them coming. You don't even have to have a spotty sense to know that a jump scare is about to happen.
No such thing as monsters. You need to grow up. I'm serious, Sawyer. I need to be alone.
But the best way I can describe this movie is that it's just so straightforward. If this was a road and the movie was the road and we were driving down the road, we'd be going straight. There's not any potholes, there's not any little side roads, there's no dirt roads, there's not even paths. This is just a road over top of the ocean. You're only gonna go straight. And you can see everything coming a mile away, the plot, even pretty much the ending, you can really see coming a mile away. They don't do anything new. You had everything you really needed to make a good movie. You had a big budget. You had a Stephen King to base your movie off of. I'm sure he helped out a little bit maybe, or maybe they just paid him to use like the name or the rights or the story or something. But the movie could have just been so much better, you know? Like, even like the concept of the kids and the dad are facing the recent death of their mom. Like, that's not anything new. Like, a grieving family starts being haunted or has to deal with this monster. That's not even a new idea. But they do that. They're trying to get over the death of their mother. There's bullies in the movie that bully the girl because her mom died, pretty much, which is so stupid. Such stereotypical bullies that it's honestly vomit inducing. It made me want to throw up with how much of a cliche the bullies were in this movie. They were even worse than the predictable jump scares and the very predictable storyline. I really did have hopes for this movie because I heard that it was decent. I heard some people say it was good, some people say it was meh. So I thought it was going to be at least decent. But honestly, I can't even find a silver lining. I can't really hold on to anything and say, I like this about the movie, besides that it was shot well and the acting was good. But that's not anything special. It's not anything special at all. If anything, it makes it even worse because, you know, the foundation was there. You had good actors, you had a good crew, and you just wasted it. You just literally flushed it down the toilet with your horrible storyline. But even the way that this monster comes about is strange because the way I understand it, the Boogeyman kind of like follows families around in a sense. Like in the beginning, how I said the baby got killed, it was because the dude that comes to see the dad, the therapist later on, he had the Boogeyman, you know, haunting his family and killing his whole family, to which he killed himself in the therapist house, like I said, which somehow then made the entity, the Boogeyman, latch on to Dr. Harper and his family. Which that means that the two daughters, the Sadie and her younger sister Sawyer, now have to deal with this monster. And of course their dad doesn't believe them that they're seeing the monster until the very end when he sees the monster and they have this final showdown, and then all's well ends well. None of them even die. They all make it out. They kill the monster. They make it think that the monster is going to come back at the end, but it really doesn't. It's just a false jump scare, a false sense of security. I think that makes sense. But they have this happy little ending, which to me, I hate when horror movies have a happy ending. I'm watching a horror movie to be scared. I want to be scared. I want to be spooked. And if you're just going to make a bad movie, at least kill off one of the main characters, you know? At least make something impactful, make something meaningful to where I actually feel like I made a good use of my hour and a half watching this movie. Instead of you just giving me these characters and then making them have like no consequences of their actions, and making them be in no real threat of danger at all whatsoever. Really, none of them even got injured from the Boogeyman. They kind of just got tormented for like a couple minutes, chased for a couple minutes, and the dad kind of hurt his leg a little bit. But that's pretty much it. That's all that happened. That's genuinely all that happened. Oh yeah, one more thing I wanted to mention. The Boogeyman, his weakness is lots. Lotting and, you know, all that kind of stuff is his weakness. And yet, 90% of the movie is dark. That's one thing that really pissed me off. Are there no lights in these houses? Like, surely you could just flick a little switch, turn the lights on. Like, the monster it wasn't like Vecna or whatever it's called in Stranger Things where it, like, pops the light bulbs and all that. It didn't have the ability, it seems, to turn off lights. And yet, they decided to have little candles and lighters as their sources of light, just to make the movie darker and scarier. Like, light switches weren't used. They didn't think about getting flashlights in between when they had breaks from the monster. They just decided to keep everything dark. and give the monster the upper hand. Give the boogeyman the upper hand. Anyways, I'm rambling too much. I'm getting tired just thinking about this movie. Just thinking about the movie makes me want to take a big old nap and go me. Because I would have fell asleep during this movie if I didn't start doing other things while watching it. And if your movie is so insanely boring to me that I don't even want to focus even half of my attention on it, that's kind of bad, because I'll watch anything. I watched Riverdale. I watched every season of Riverdale. And if I can't watch your scary movie, that speaks volumes to how bad it must be. Anyways, I don't know why anyone would have sat through this. I don't know if you did watch to this point. God bless your soul. You probably need to have like a therapy session of your own now just to cleanse yourself of me in general. But I'll catch you in the next one, man.